2023. This is the Richard V. Russell Intermediate Triathlon. This one is coming up in just a couple of weeks here. So let's dive into some of the main details for this July 8th race starting at 7:30 in the morning. First of all, you can find directions right on the website. It tells you all of the distances here. The distances that we are going to be talking about are the 1500 swim, 22 bike, and 6-mile run. Race information here. The registration cutoff is July 1st, so that is in a couple of days here. This is a smaller race where athletes will be getting body marked. Your swim caps will be provided to you when you do check in, and your transition area, the bike racks, are matching your assigned registration race numbers. So there is no jostling for position in this transition area right through here, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So the event timeline gate opens up at 5:30 with check-in happening from 5:30 to 7. You got to report to the beach for the swim seed positioning and the course start. That is for the duathlon there. The 7:15 is the start sequence information and last-minute course updates, which they will relay to you on the beach. 7:30 the race starts, so as you can see, 7 a.m. to 7:30, that's a lot of time to be waiting around. Make sure you are not just sitting around doing nothing. At the bare minimum, you might want to go for just a couple of minute walk here and there. You know, don't sit down, don't just stand there for 30 minutes. That's a great way to shoot yourself in the foot. So be very, very careful that way. You might just want to just stay a little bit mobile here. It's okay to sit down for a couple of minutes, but if you find yourself sitting down for those 30 minutes, you're going to start the race cold. If you do have the opportunity to do a swim warm-up, make sure that your warm-up ends about a couple of minutes before your race is scheduled to start. Awards ceremony is listed over there. There's a series of awards. I know you have to complete 3 races in order to qualify for that. This is a USAT sanctioned race, so it's all USAT rules in there. So with that, we're going to dive into some course specifics here, and we're going to be bouncing around a little bit here because we have to zoom in on the map here. So the first area that we have is the swim, which is going to happen right here. This is going to be a counterclockwise swim if everything holds true. So the first line that we are going is down this way. The second after you turn is there, and then you will turn, last turn here, you will turn into that finish on the beach there. So starting out on the first probably this first half, and if we're being honest here, since it's an Olympic, this first whole stretch here, the pace is going to be a little bit high. If magic happens and you're able to find a bigger group, this should be the higher paced area, and you should start to settle down in this area right through here. This is going to be a tight turn right in here, so make sure you're watching out for other athletes. And because this is such a tight turn, it's not the worst idea in the world to go a little wide if you're in a major pack. This arrow is not drawn to proportion. A little wide is 5 to 10 feet, not 30 or 40 feet, okay? You'll be amazed at how many less individuals there are just a couple of feet off of the direct line right here. So if that is the case and you are battling people a lot right through here, you might want to just shoot off to the side here for just a couple of feet, and you have some cleaner water if you want to do that. Now this turn is going to be very, very crowded no matter where you are on race day at this point in time right here. People are going to be turning. They're going to be very confused. It's a little bit sharper than a 90-degree turn. So there is a little bit extra confusion associated with this, coupled with the fact that there's going to be a lot of individuals around you, means that this turn is going to be a high valued turn on course. If you are able to make this turn and just continue swimming, awesome for you, right? Ideally, what you want to do is make this turn and be able to swim to this side of my square right through here relatively without sighting. If you're around other people, let them do that for you. If not, then you're probably going to have to sight directly after this turn. But again, don't overthink it. Even if you do make a 90-degree turn, right, for those first couple of strokes, you're not super far off the line, and it's a very easy course correction after that. So make this turn, don't overthink it, before you are headed towards the second part of the tricky triangle right through here. This is going to be the point in time where you should be riding your race pace out there on course. If you are still running and gunning with some of the people you should not be swimming with, you're going to start to feel it in this part of the triangle here. So don't be afraid to back off if you're going a little bit too hard. This is going to be the point in time where most individuals feel that they have overdid it during the first leg of the triangle, right? And if you are swimming this correctly during this section right through here, you should be able to, really put yourself, you have some distance put between you and your competitors here. You should be able to pass them or catch up to other groups relatively easy here. The big blowout is going to start to happen right at this corner here. This is, if it's drawn to scale, which I'm assuming it is, this is going to be another very, very tight turn on course, and this is going to be another one that really challenges people here. But again, even if you take this turn like this and then you turn at a 90-degree turn, it's not the end of the world, at least for the first 20, maybe even 30 strokes out here, depending on what your group size is, because that's going to put you at this point in here, and it's a very easy fix there. So don't overthink it and feel like if you are off of course, you'll zigzag over here and then zigzag back before you get back on a line. It's probably not what you want to do. Don't be afraid if you are off to just sight at this corner of this beach right through here, this where the land juts out right here. Okay, it looks like it's very, very close here, so they're going to force you to go that way anyways, and so this is going to be a lot faster than something like correct and then go over there. You're going to be swimming a little bit more if you do something like that. During this stretch here, you're going to be swimming your raced pace. Don't overthink it, right? And once you start to get close to where this land starts to jet out, you need to increase the rate of your kick to get your body ready for the transition and land events, which we will zoom in again for you here. You're going to exit the swim here, and you are going to go up through the trees. I don't know if it's going to be carpeted. There is not a lot of information, so be ready to run over grass and roots and twigs and all that fun stuff. Because of that, you might want to slow down a little bit more, maybe pay a little bit more attention to where you're placing your feet leading up to that transition area. Again, it could be paved, it could be carpeted. I just don't know. Make sure you're asking those questions when you do check in on race day. From there, you're going to enter the transition at the bottom section, at least that's what it's labeled as, and you are going to directly go in, get your stuff, and then go out before we head out on to the bike, which you will ride out of the park here, and you will be making a left-hand turn for the bike. And the bike is in blue. And again, I apologize, this is the best map that we have for this course here. And what you're going to do is you're going to go and perform this in a counterclockwise fashion. And then when you curl back up right around mile 17 here, instead of cutting back in, you do have to go all the way back over here and go back up to the top there. So a little bit of a unique course. You're going to be experiencing all directions here. So if we bounce over to our elevation profile out on course, again, I don't know where the aid stations are going to be, if there are any, so you need to be asking that when you do check in here. Immediately when you look at a course like this, you'll see that from the very get-go, you have a uphill, downhill, and then we have another couple of hills before we have a rolling decline into the finish. So backing all the way up for the first key section out on course is, excuse me, I got the wrong tool here, is this first little section right through here. And I'm going to include this little downhill, believe it or not. This is not going to be the point in time where you need to really put the hammer down. On a course like this, yep, you do have to get up to speed, but you'll notice we are approaching, 520 feet, and we are going up to 600 very, very quickly. So we do have about 80 feet of gain immediately coming out of that transition area. No official climbs on this route, but these are going to be punchy, these are going to be aggressive climbs, and the way you're going to ride this is you're going to build your speed on the downhills and carry it up uphills as much as possible, and while staying in control. Again, if you can go and keep this pattern, you'll be surprised at how many of these little rollers you'll be able to go up, even in the arrow position. Okay, you might not be able to get all the way up there, but you should be able to get up with minimal effort for half or 3/4 of these rollers. And the first section here, you do want to get up to speed as best as possible, but do not force it during this section. If you find yourself forcing the speed here, you need to back off. You need to be aware of your cadence, heart rate, and your effort level, power, everything that you're using to track that on race day. Because once you reach this hill right through here, this is where the games really start. And this section is the section the second most important course, or second most important area out on course. This is going to be the point in time where you'll be able to put a lot of time into other individuals, or they are going to be able to do that to you instead. Remember what I talked about riding those downhills in order to get to the uphills? This is going to be an excellent opportunity to do so. Now, again, remember, this is a rolling section of downhill through here, right? So it's not all happy days. You are going to have to work here, and you are going to be opening yourself up into a couple of areas that can sucker you into too much work during this back half of this important section here. This is going to be an area where athletes implode a little bit later on because of efforts through here. Immediately after this one, we have an incline, and again, it's a rolling uphill section here past mile 14, 15 through here. And if you are using these hills appropriately, they're going to take some bite out of you, but then they are going to cool off, and you'll be able to build your speed back up a little bit before you get hit with another incline here. If you are going faster than 14 miles an hour, make sure you are in that arrow position. And again, this is an easy opportunity to really, really overdo it. The areas that you do, or you have the option to kind of overdo it, and I use that in quotations, are these areas right through here, and last big one here. This is going to be the point in time where you're saving the most on other individuals. People who look at this course will often say that this is going to be the area where I'm going to put a lot of effort into someone. And if you are that person, you do put a lot of effort during this section here, you're going to pay for it, right? Think back to a couple other videos that we talked about. You want the most bang for your buck in the smallest amount of time. So during this section, this is a longer section, and if you do go a bit harder than most, you're probably going to save, let's call it a minute, right? But if you can save 20 seconds here, and you can save 10 seconds here, and let's call it 5 seconds here, you're almost at that minute anyways, right? And you won't have to expend as much effort because these are much smaller sections out on course. After this big, let's call it the big hill on course, after that, things do cool off a little bit. You do have a little bit of a downhill. Make sure you are continuing to move your legs. Even if you're going fast here, you just want to kind of keep things rolling. If you are going faster than 30, 32 miles an hour, make sure you're tucking in and just kind of riding it until you start dropping below that 25 miles an hour where you start spinning up again. This section is going to be one of the harder sections, at least from a perception out on course. That's because you just had this major hill that comes up, and then you are going to continue that with another rolling uphill section, one of the most difficult sections out on course mentally, because you're almost done but not quite. After you do, you have another quick downhill recovery before you pop back up, and you have a rolling downhill to the finish. Again, like I talked about at the very beginning, you are not totally done here out on course. Because of these rolling uphills, use these downhills to get up the uphills, and you will be amazed at how much you can save while doing that. And that is the run in a nutshell. Moving over to the bike here, I'm going to switch over to the map so you can see what we are working with. And again, let's zoom into the transition area. You are going to be coming down this hill for the bike, entering the transition through this point in time. Make sure you are aware of the mount and dismount line wherever that is. It is a USAT race, so they will have that. Get your stuff, or rack your stuff, excuse me, before you get your run stuff, and you are headed out the back of transition before you climb up the hill. All right, it looks like from a map perspective that you are going to exit that transition area, and you are going to be going out this hill, so that means you are going to be coming down this hill twice to the finish line. And again, this is an out and back section twice. You can see here out, and then this is the transition / finish area where you will turn again, and you are going to do another clockwise loop of that out and back here. Because we have a classified climb en route that's coming from the very beginning of your course, you're going to have to be very careful on how you conduct yourself for the first stretch up this hill here. If you are the type of person who loves to get out of the transition and really put the hammer down for those first couple of miles, you might pay for that later on because of a huge effort that you had to do to overcome this big hill through here. If the smarter money's on someone who goes at a decent clip up this hill, but doesn't overdo it here. So you're going to be watching your heart rate, your pace. You're going to be doing your cooling strategies at this point in time. And then once you get up this hill, right, then it becomes a very manageable course after that. So in my eyes, you really only have 2 hills out on course, and you do have to go up and down them, yes. So when you are coming back into that finish line or for the second loop, you do have to go down it, which can play tricks on your legs and can kind of upset the rhythm of your run and really make this second time you go up this hill very, very tough. So when you are going downhill, right, you really want to make sure that you're running dynamics and your form is really is going really well. If not, right, if your legs starting to creep out in front of you, you're starting to use the quads to really absorb things, then when you start to make that turn onto your second loop, then that hill's going to turn into a mountain. So make sure that you just get yourself down here. Don't be afraid to use gravity to help you get down. The first 3/4 of the hill are at a softer grade, where the last quarter of that hill definitely dips down. It's going to be a little harder to kind of manage that. So if you can manage things really well and help yourself by letting gravity kind of do the work for the first 3/4 of the hill before you really have to kind of put the brakes on for the last quarter, that would be very, very beneficial and much more economical for you. Second time up this hill, it's a little bit different than the first time. You're still going to want to manage things, but you should be able to go up this hill a little bit faster, right? And I put that in quotations with a little bit. All right. Again, you don't want to overdo it, but you do have the ability to push the pace a little bit if you are feeling good. And if you're not feeling great, just get up this thing before you start the second meet out on course, which is the exact same thing that you did before. So you know what's coming. Make sure you know where the aid stations are out on course. And if it's a hot day, make sure you are actively cooling yourself off. Grab something to fuel with, grab something to cool off with, okay, at every single aid station. And if you're really overheated, make sure you're grabbing 2 things to cool off with. All right, they are not going to want you to overheat and overdo it out there, so they will allow you to get some of that stuff. If you say, I'm just too hot, I need something extra, they're not going to turn you away for that, at least in most cases. Make sure you know where the aid stations are on course, and that is the wrap-up of the Richard B. Russel Intermediate Olympic Distance Triathlon for 2023. Good luck, everybody. If you have any more questions, please reach out here or directly to me via email.